This shir should be Eli Nishmas, my mother Miriam Batinda. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, in Kuf Lamed Aleph, he says, Shir Lamalos, LeDavid, Hashem lo gava libi v'lo romu enai, v'lo elechti bigdolos v'niflos mimeni. Im lo shivisi v'domamti nafshi kigmul laimi, imo kigmul alay nafshi. This pasuk has a number of questions in it. First thing is, what's the connection between the beginning of the pasuk and the idea of the gmul? And also, what does it mean, the kagmul, the first kagmul is with a shava, and the gmul sheni, the second gmul, is kagmul, lenafshi. What's the difference between the gmul rishon and the second gmul? They both have kafa dimyon. First time it's with a shava, and the second one is with a patach. The Radak says on this pasuk, so shiviti v'domamti, samti osai, which is my nefesh, kegmul enimo. What does it mean, gmul? Gmul means a child that was nursing, and at a certain age he stops nursing. This gmul stage, this stopping nursing stage, has a benefit and a negative side. The benefit is that he stops nursing, and the negative thing is that he also starts feeling really strong, but one little bang that he gets, and he starts running to his mother. He's like in a between stage, between he still needs his mother. On the other side, he's not completely free. He still needs he's not completely individual. He's not completely by himself, and he's not completely with his mother. He's somewhere between. In everything in the physical world we see, in all of creation we see something between the two stages. Between Domem and Somech we see the almog, which is some type of algae or something. Between there's some rock that grows. Between the Somech and Chai, there's a certain animal called Adnei Asoda, which is like a certain type of animal that has its belly button attached to the ground, and if you cut the belly button, then it would die. And between the Chai and the Medaber, the people, there's a monkey. In every stage, between every two stages, there must be a stage in the middle. So we're going to see that all of the middle stage is also found between the time of a person, when a person's in neshama by himself, and when he's alive in this world. When a person's first born, the neshama goes into the guf. At the time when a person is born, there's a malach that waits at the opening, and when the baby comes out, so this malach gives him a patch, and this patch, there's inyan to it. A patch is a connection between the hand and a person's face. That's what a patch is. That's what a slap in the face is. And when the malach gives the slap, the neshama of the baby goes into the body. Until then, it was like a candle that was hanging above the head of the baby. It wasn't actually inside. Only when it was born it actually goes inside. So there, be'emes, inside the mother's stomach, there's a certain stage where it's not a normal stage. On one side, it's already physical. It's already the neshama is already olam hazeh. On the other side, it's a type of state where this baby is like eating what his mother eats, drinking what his mother eats, but he could see from one end to the next of the world, and he's learning the whole Torah from a malach. It's a different existence, completely different existence. The Gemara says there's no better time than a time when a person's in his mother's womb. It's a completely good time when there's no problems, there's no worries. It's the best time in this world that we have. But still, it's not Olam Hazeh. It's not completely this world. When a person comes out, he's all the problems in the whole world start coming to him. Parnasa, taxes, accidents, sicknesses, all these things. They start right when a person comes out of his mother's stomach. It says, "Bezef sopecha tocha lachem, at shuv chaladam," until you go return to the ground. What's the idea here? The actual eating itself that the baby eats brings him closer to its death. Why? Since the body is made up of all sorts of tubes and all sorts of holes, and when a person starts eating, and the food is not on such a pure level, like when Adam Rishon was in Gan Eden, then what happens is the food leaves leftovers, and this leftovers start clogging up the pipes. So right away when the baby starts eating, he starts dying. This is what the Torah says, until you turn to the dirt to die, meaning that the food itself causes a person to die. So it comes out that the actual existence of inside the mother's womb is a certain type of in-between stage, between a spiritual stage and a completely physical stage, where the neshama is attached to the guf. To explain this a little more, it's known that the neshama, when it's in Shemaim, it's in a place called guf, in Shemaim. Ben David won't come until the neshamas of the guf are finished, meaning there's a cluster of neshamas up in Shemaim, which is a whole lesson in and of itself, to understand how this cluster is connected to Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon was made up of Tayag Evarim, and every Evar was gave out 600,000 neshamas. When Adam Rishon sinned, the Tayag was divided into another Tayag, and those each had 600,000. So each neshama comes from a certain limb. It's attached to the root. At first, the root was Tayag, and that broke down into 600,000. After the sin, since there was a fear, since a person's attached to a certain shorish neshama, if he does an avera, he damages the whole shorish. And also, he gives reward to the shorish when he does mitzvahs. Now, since a person was now leaning towards sin more than towards mitzvahs, every neshama here was very close to doing sin. And if the shorish was too big, then the damage would be too big. So he divided the root into another 613. Now, why didn't he divide it into more 600 sets of 613? Because a person needs a certain minimum aspect of neshama in order to be able to live in this world. If Hashem divided it more, then there wouldn't be enough neshama to go into a guf. So he made it small enough in order that we should have potential, and not too big that it shouldn't damage the shorish. In any case, each neshama has its shorish, the spiritual shorish, and it needs to go into this world in order to fix that aspect. And when it's in the eshkol, when it's in the cluster, it's good. The cluster of souls and Shemaim, it can see it from one end to the next. You can enjoy the light of the Shechina. And now Hashem says, okay, it's time for you to come down, says to Neshama. The Neshama says, wait, Hashem, it's good for me here. Why do I need to go down to that world? I don't want. So Hashem says to the Neshama, he says, you should know that from the moment that you're created, you were only created for this. There's no such thing as not agreeing to go down to this world. Even though this world seems bad and has difficulties, but still, the ability to go from a standing position, from a standing place, and to go to a moving place is only through this world. It says, only in this world, when a person goes and has difficulties in this world, only then can he start going up. He can start raising himself up. Nes is from Lashon Lis, Noses, to go up. And Nes also means Nisayon. If it weren't for Nisyonos, if it weren't for tests and difficulties, a person would not be able to lift himself up and move up from his status. If we understood the importance of Nisyonos, we would ask for Nisyonos. But instead we daven that we shouldn't have any sign, nor that we shouldn't come to Bizayon. But still, this world is more chances that we'll get to a Bizayon than we should be able to stand in tests. But Be'emes, the Tzadikim, they know that the Nisayon lifts them up to such a high level that Tzadikim actually asked for Nisyonos. David HaMelech said to Hashem, Naseinu, test me. Test my Bechen Kiliosai. He says, test me, let's see if I could stand up in such a thing. And Hashem said, listen, I'm going to give you a test that even a child could pass, and you won't be able to pass. There are other stories in the Gemara where they want to see their power, and they went into a shuk of zonos, of illicit women, and they want to see if they'd be able to test them or not, to be able to entice them or not. And the women were so scared they all ran away, ran to the houses, and there wasn't even a sound there. Now let's hear what the Radak says. שיוויתי ותממתי, שמתי אותי כגמלי אמו. Like a child who slowly starts paying attention to his ways and doesn't rely on himself, only on his mother, and he relies on her to lead him in his way. He doesn't. In amazing things, he relies on his. A person must rely on his teachers and not on himself. Sometimes there are states when, like the terrible twos, when you tell a child, go bring me a drink, and he says, I don't want. You say, go do this, go to sleep, it's late. And he says, I don't want. You say, go take a shower. He says, don't want. And the child all of a sudden takes a certain type of energy, and he says he doesn't want. He says he doesn't want. And Hebrew they say, dubi lolo, that's what they call him. He has a certain problem, this child. In the beginning he used to be dependent a lot on his mother, and now he starts feeling like he's independent. He could think, he could do things, he could decide things for himself. So he wants to separate from his mother. The person has to find the middle path between the fact that he certainly does need his mother, since he's not big enough yet. And on the other side, the parents have to give him a certain freedom in order so he could start feeling bigger. Because if they close down on him too much, then it would cause this child wouldn't develop properly. So therefore there's a middle stage which is very delicate. And this is all hinting to the neshama. The neshama needs to separate twice. Once it separates from the upper worlds, coming into this world. And after death, a person has to leave this world and separate and go out to the world to come. This is what the pasuk is talking about. Separating, or gemila, twice. The first time is referring to separating from his mother, which is the Shechina Kedosha, which is the mother of all of the neshamas of Am Yisrael. And this neshama has to separate itself from the fact that he was before in the lap of the Shechina and was close to Hashem, and it has to separate from that, and now come to be chelik l'kamimel, but still inside a body. So from one side, you can't say I'm a body, I want to be close to Hashem. Hashem created the world in order that we should act in this world and do things in this world and create in this world. We can't say I'm not interested. I don't want to be in a body, I want to be in a neshama. It was good for me and I want to go back. Since you're here, you have to do as best as you can here in this world, in this situation. The situation has to be, you have to be in the situation of gemul, separating slowly. Gemul is to separate slowly, not to take lights that are too high, because if you do, then chas v'shalom there could be shvir sakelim. Which means also between the stage when the world was only Hashem, and also in the world of Tikkun, there's a stage in the creation of the world where Hashem created worlds and destroyed them. It's like an in-between stage between everything being Hashem and what we call the Olam HaTikkun, the fixed world. I want to explain this because it's very important to understand. Now when Hashem created the world, at first everything was Hashem. And there was a necessity to have space for the world, because if there wasn't space for the world, then how could he create the world without space? Everything needs a space. You have a store, you need a place for the store. You can't put a store in the air. Even air is place. There needs to be a place. Since there was no place for Kadosh Baruch Hu to create the world, he had to be mitzamtzam for himself. He had to minimize himself, limit himself, in order to create a person. So from a certain point, the light spread to the sides, and there was an empty space in the middle. From this halal, this empty space, the kav went in, a line of or went in. Meaning there are two stages. The first stage, there was first stage was a halal, a rishima, and the second stage, a line went in, and the or went in through the kav. The kav did not reach to the other side of the halal, of the empty space. Because if it did, then the whole thing, empty space, would have turned back to Or Ein Sof. Now, if Hashem created a halal, if He created empty space, and afterwards put a kav inside, why didn't He just create the empty space and leave the kav inside? You could leave everything that's aside from the kav. You could take everything aside from the kav and take it out. Seemed to be there's purpose in taking everything away and then afterwards bring in the kav. There's a certain question that's asked by Tafishayin Base, one of the harder writings of Chabad. And there's an interesting conclusion there. Before we speak about the conclusion, we're going to speak about what's happening here. And when Hashem is mitzamtzem himself to the sides, there's a rishima that's left. A rishima is an imprint. This rishima is like a chomer yuli, in between type of material that the kelim are created from. The kav is the neshama. Kav is like the neshama, and its purpose is to perfect the kelim and bring them back to connection with Ein Sof. We're going to take this understanding, this explanation, and put it down back into a person. Now, the body of a person relates to the rishima, and the neshama of a person is rooted in the kav. Until here, everything is good. Now, to understand this, which one comes first? When Hashem did in this order, where first He did it tzimtzum, and then He left the rishima, and afterwards the kav comes in, it means that the kelim come first, before the neshama comes. And what comes first is also more important. So it means that the shorish of the goof is more important than is higher than the shorish of the neshama, which is a very, very shocking conclusion that the Chabad Sefer of Chabad comes to. At the end of the day, the body goes to the cave, it goes to the grave, and the neshama gets all haba and chesim and all these other things. So how could it be that the goof has a root that's higher than the neshama? Hasidic is firm. They explain that if you have a ladder and you put all sorts of things on the ladder and you drop the ladder, so whatever is higher on the ladder falls farther, and whatever was closer on the ladder, lower on the ladder, falls closer. So something that has a higher root falls very far. If you see something here in this world that's very high, it must be that its root is not so high, because it fell from not such a high place. The Gemara explains that when a certain Tana died to a certain extent and came back, and his children asked his father, "What did you see there?" He said, "I saw the upside down world. Things that were up were down. Things that were down were up. Everything was backwards than what it is here." Meaning the body has, in its root, has a much higher level. In this world, we don't see it because the body is drawn towards Taivas Lom Hazen, and the neshama isn't. But the root of the body. The root has logic to it. A person feels more than he feels as neshama. If a person bangs on his finger, and then the wisest person can come and tell me wise things, and I could be not interested. I don't have any energy for this. My finger hurts. And the smallest thing hurts, and your intelligence leaves. Meaning that the body has the power to feel itself. Feeling itself, being conscious of a person's self, is a midah of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Something that's connected to godliness. But the neshama could be inside of me, and still I don't feel it. This is interesting. My mother, when she got sick, at first it was getting worse, and they put her in tipul nimratz, and they sedated her. Afterwards, she came out after 3 days, and I asked her. I said, "Mother, what did you see in the upper world?" And I was sure that she would tell me all sorts of things, how they draw what happened in Shemayim, all the courts, and all drawing back her soul back into the body. And she says she doesn't remember. She didn't see anything. She was about a 10% consciousness. If she could know who's inside the room and things like that. Not much more than that. We see from this that the body feels itself more than the neshama feels itself. There's a certain stage when a person dies, it would seem, that when that when after the body dies, then the neshama starts feeling itself. But here in this world, our main feeling is the feeling of the body. So the Ramchal explains that it's true that the body here in this world is very low, but this body will have a certain high level, will achieve a high level that will be able to understand it, will be able to see its great level, even more than the great level of a neshama. There's Tches amazing, but even there's 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000th year. And from 1,000 from each 1,000 to the next, the body is purified every stage. And the truth is that the neshama, there's nothing to purify it. If the neshama is chelik l'kamimal, why do you need to purify the chelik l'kamimal, a godly neshama? What's the difference between a high neshama and a low neshama? One thing is the level in the Adam Rishon, where he's attached to Adam Rishon, the general neshama of Adam Rishon. The main thing is not the tikkun of the neshama. We say Elokai neshama shenasata bi Torah ata v'ata teitzata ata sisa ata nefachta bi. All these things, what can I do? Now Hashem gave me this neshama. Hashem gave me this. Hashem created it. Hashem did it. Hashem formed it. What can I do? The main tikkun of the neshama is in the lavush. And this is what we fix. We fix the lavush. The lavush of the neshama is machshava dibra maisa. Thought is connected to the neshama, speech is ruach, and action is like nefesh. These are the levushim that are visible, that we can see, that we understand. But there are other ones that we also receive from our parents. And these levushim, they are drawn from the parents at the time when they had relations in order to create the baby. From the three parameters that the neshama comes down from. What decides what type of neshama a person gets? Three parameters. What the mother and father, what they're dealing with. If their head is in money, and the mother's head is only in clothing and makeup, so a certain type of child is going to come out. If the head of a father is in kabbalah or spiritual things, and the mother is tsanua and covers her head properly, and her head is in proper places, so a certain type of neshama is going to come out based on that. So the first thing is, where is the head of the parents during that period of time? The second thing is how are they mekadosh themselves? Are they tznius? Is the mother, does she keep nida? Does she tovel? All these different things that are connected to kedusha. And the third thing is knowing the ways of Kadosh Baruch Hu. On Yom Kippur, during the day, child is not going to. It's not going to be like a baby that was conceived at Erev Shabbos. The mother's thinking that soon she has to turn off the washing machine and make sure the fire doesn't burn the food, and the husband is thinking, oh, I gotta go to the office soon. And Erev Shabbos, their head is in these things. This is for sure a difference between these things. So this is also when they know the time to be together. These are the three parameters. Sometimes a person, though, could have these three parameters perfect, where he's learning the kedusha v'tara. He watches over his kedusha, and the time is the right time. He's with his wife. But at that night, the Leil Tefillah, when he comes home, his wife burnt the food, and they had a little fight because the child said something to her, and he didn't protect her, and they start getting into big upsetness, and he starts getting angry at her. And still, even though he's careful about these three things, at that moment, though, in his head, he was angry at her. So there could be a state where the child is born from a bnei tisha midas, which is nusa, ema, nusa, snu, and all these different things. Even if you draw a very high neshama for the child, the tselem will be very, very low. The tselem will be very, very bad. And it's harder, it's easier to be metakin when the neshama isn't such from a high place, but the tselem is good, rather than when the tselem is bad and the neshama is from a very high place. Tselem is stronger. There could be a situation where the parents don't keep they don't, all the three parameters, they don't have them in such a good way. But still they have a very, very strong love for each other, they care about each other, and they give to each other. And at the time when they're together, they're thinking about each other, they care about each other. So they could have a tzaddik that's born from them. They're completely chilonim that have children that come out to be rabbis, because there's love, there's respect between them. And this is what could bring a much better child than if it was the opposite. So if they keep all the mitzvahs of the Torah and still they don't care about each other, they make fun of each other, they scream at each other, they'll have a child with bad midas. And midas have the power to win over the intelligence. The intelligence will go after the seichel, the midas, and it will actually explain the midas and give support to the midas. When a child has good midas, then he has more chances in this area. In any case, neshama goes into a state that wasn't used to it. When he was up in Shemaim, he didn't have a tzelem, he didn't have a goof. When he comes here into this world and he comes into a tzelem and he comes into a goof, it starts having problems, difficulties. It can't do whatever it wants. It doesn't have kedusha like it wants. It has to be goma, has to separate from the inyanim of the upper worlds, of the heavenly worlds. If it now still has some kind of memory of holiness and it wants to receive all of this in one hit, it's going to be very difficult for it. This is what the Radak is saying here. You should get used to it slowly. I mean, till the age of 13, the intelligence is very weak. Still we see in children when they're miserly, they'll be miserly from when they're even from 1 year old. One baby could take all this candies and doesn't give it to anyone. If someone takes it from them, they'll turn over the house upside down. And a different child wants to give it to everybody. Whatever the child receives, gives it to everybody. This isn't a natural. This isn't a midah that they were worked for. It's a midah they were born with. And whose fault is it? Which type of midas the children have? The parents, with the thoughts that the parents were thinking when they were together, having the child. Now for the neshama, it's very, very hard. Because now the neshama is dressed up inside all of these kelim. And if these kelim are very physical type of kelim, lowly type of kelim, then it's very, very hard for the neshama. Because as we said at the beginning, it saw from the beginning of the world to the end of the world, didn't have any problems. And now it goes into a certain method of balagan starts. The baby, when he's born, he doesn't see anything. Why doesn't he see anything? The Zohar says, if you take a person who is in a very, very place with a lot of light, and he goes into a dark room, he can't see anything. It takes time till his eyes get used to the darkness. Same thing here. The baby, when he was in the mother's womb, had a great light, and now when he goes out, he comes into the darkness of the world, he can't see a little. After a while, he's able to start seeing. He can start feeling his body. Until 13, Hashem doesn't give him mochin to godless. His mochin slowly develop. First of all, he wants to do is grab more candies and this and that. And afterwards, he wants to make his Rebbe happy. Gets all sorts of prizes. He can't do anything lishma for Hashem. A baby can't do that. It takes time until he gets used to this world. As I said here, כגמול לאמא. This is a kafadimion with a shva. When I asked people, what's the difference between kafadimion and shva and patach? And some people that knew diktuk very well answered me. Said that with a shva, it tells you like present progressive. It's talking about a case of present progressive. And when we're talking about kagamo, which is then it's talking about the past. So I understood that there was a certain mahalach like this. The first mahalach, when you're here in this world, the difference is the present. You can't rely on the past, and you can't pay for the future. You're judged based on how you are right now. How do I understand this? When Rebbe ben Dodai was nifter and he died from crying, Rebbe ben Dodai was a great Rasha his whole life. When he understood his mistake, he cried until his neshama left. And the Pascal came out and said, Ashecha Rebbe ben Dodai, it's your Zohar on Haba. And the Rizal explains, Rebbe ben Dodai was a Gilgul of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Yochanan Kohen Gadol was for 80 years he was a tzaddik, and then he became a tzadduki. And then he died as a tzadduki. When he died as a tzadduki, the last thing that he did, last state that he was in a state of Russia. So he lost all of his good things that he did, he lost. We judge a person according to his end. Rebbe ben Dodai, since at the end he was a tzaddik, he got all of the mitzvahs of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. And these mitzvahs weren't lost. This means to say, you have to know, when a person does a vidui with a person that's about to die, this vidui, part of this vidui, is if I'm in a difficult time, if I said something against Shamayim recently or in the past, it's only because it's all of the assume that I have right now are hurting me. It's not the emes that I don't mean to say these things. Something against Hashem. When I was in the hospital with my mother, we didn't know the state. We were hoping that everything would go well. We didn't know what would happen. She was a very healthy woman, also her lungs, also her kidneys, also her heart, everything was healthy. She was 84, but she used to clean up ladders and clean dust. She broke a bone and she went to surgery, and they gave her a pill called Procor to stabilize the heart. It killed 90% of her lungs. It made a certain layer on the heart, on the lungs, and an infection got between the layer and the lungs. And the doctor says nothing we could do. If she could last for 100 days till this drug leaves the body, then she could live. If not, then she's gonna die. And then she died from that. The whole time she was conscious, and she would speak to us. And I wanted very much to do vidui with her, Shema Yisrael, and all. It's always good for a person to feel like he's clean from his past. On the other side, if a person does vidui and when he thinks he's gonna come out, it's as if you're saying to him, you're gonna die. So then he could get scared. It could be very dangerous to him. So I didn't want to do it. I was afraid of doing it, because I wouldn't be able to say it out loud with her. And I kept on saying, hopefully you'll come out of this, everything will be okay. In any case, on the third day, before 2 weeks, things got worse. And she said to me, help me. And how could I help her without davening for her? Except for davening for her, what could I do? We brought all the professors. We did what we could. And they couldn't help, so I said, okay, we'll start. So she signs to me, come and read with me. And Betzim, she said Shema Yisrael, and she said all the vidui. And then, with her last words were Shema Yisrael, Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech. And she was zocha in this inyan to leave this world the kedusha of Tara. This moment of death is very important. A person in this world is judged according to the present. If a person's choser b'tshuva, and then he feels bad about the fact that he was choser b'tshuva, and he dies feeling bad about the fact that he was choser b'tshuva, it was all gone. It's all gone. The Gemara says that when Rebbe heard that Rabbi Elazar ben Dodai was zocher to Chayil Haba, and Baskol came out and said, Ashrecha Rabbi Elazar ben Dodai, Rebbe cried and he said, there's a person that could buy his whole world in 1 hour. So the Mepharshim asked, why is Rebbe crying? Why was he crying? He should be happy. Rebbe understood also the opposite. Rebbe understood that if a person could buy his whole world in 1 hour, he could also lose it all in 1 hour. 1 moment. A friend of mine told me, a friend that works in a very difficult section of a hospital. He says in this hospital half the people die and half the people come out alive. So he says there are people that go like this and go like that. Some people go like that. Sometimes you see a Kiddush Hashem like you couldn't imagine. And sometimes you see complete kfir that you could never imagine. Hashem should bring us to Nisayon. This is not a simple Nisayon for a person who wants to live. For a person who wants to live, it's a very difficult test. But still, this is what I understood. Why it says Kigmul Leima. Kigmul with the Shiva is talking about the Gemila, the leaving of the neshama from the spiritual world into this world. It's tested with a kafa dimyon according to how it is now, not according to the past. The question is, in the end, how is a person taken from this world? That's the big question. When a person leaves in this world and he goes to the world to come, so then he's tested with a kafa dimyon, and he's tested on his past with a patach, and he's tested on all the things that he did, with which all the things that he did are the things that build his levush that he receives olam haba with. It's also given through kaddish and things that the rabbis do here in this world to be metak and neshama. And the main thing is, it's past. In this world, it's avodah. In the world to come, we have the bechina of schar, the reward. Now the baby teaches us this midah of the middle path. How does this pasuk start? Hashem lo kavah libi v'lo ramu alai v'lo halachti b'gdulot v'lo mimeni. This is the king of Israel, who nothing's missing, nothing's lacking from. All sorts of dictators that have all sorts of dictatorship abilities, they become messed up. Gaddafi and Swedish king. Every person that has a lot of money, they could very, very easily be destroyed. As a person. Why do we like Tim so much? Why do we like David HaMelech so much? What's so special about him? Some things that he had all this Olam Hazeh, and still he was an Anav. He was shuffle. He had good midos. He was mevatel himself to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Chazal tell us that babies and children in the beginning, when the world was created, when they were born, they would take scissors and they would cut the umbilical cord, and they would go heat up water to heal themselves. And now our babies, for the first 2 years, they can't do anything. Baby drinks milk, which is blood that congeals, that goes into the mother, and it goes out of the mother, and then the baby drinks it, and it goes back in the stomach of the baby, go back to blood. And the Mepharshim asks, why does the blood turn into milk and the milk turns back into blood? He should drink blood straight. The mother should give him blood. She should drink the blood, and it should go right into his blood. What's the whole process from blood to milk to blood? Imagine what would happen if a baby would drink blood. If now people were very cruel, you could imagine how much crueler they would be if they drank blood. So Hashem gave us the ability to understand that we're nothing. First we were born, First he just waves his hands, and he screams, doesn't have anything. They give him to eat, and he slowly starts swimming on the ground, gets all dirty, and he doesn't know what the difference is between good and bad. He doesn't have any intelligence. Okay, he develops, he passes this stage, and he gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when he's 20, he's already standing up. He's strong. He thinks he's very strong. After 20, the body starts getting older. He gets 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then under. This means to say that a person goes back to the state of being a baby. I was once in an old age home, and I saw anyone who wants to live for a long time, he has to meet up with old age. If you want to live a long time, you have to meet up with old age. And the difficulty thing of old age is that a person goes back to be when he was like a baby. You have to feed him, you have to give him drinks, you have to say Al tashtechini le'zikna. It's a very difficult thing. Nobody wants to be like this. A person that doesn't have any abilities, such a low, difficult type of somebody who's supported by his children. Nobody wants this. Still, this metzius is to teach us kniya. And see what the pasuk says. Lo gavali bi lo mamai, v'lachti b'glus v'niflos mimeni. I know my place. I'm this big. In the shiviti v'domamti. What does it mean shivisi? Shivisi is midas hashivayim. Shivayim is where everything's equal. For a tzaddik, it's a steak and a vegetable is the same thing. As long as it gives him energy and he's able to learn Torah. They don't judge this world based on pleasures. Why? When during the Veilus, I spoke a little bit about the mila of zikna, of old age. The mila is a person's doesn't have such high bad yetzer. A person is free to deal with things that are more important in life. And if a person knows how to take advantage of his old age, he can get great things. But we teach that the problem is that the world teaches that to be young is good. And a person thinks that he's young, so when a person thinks about his young years, he feels bad. He thinks, oh, when I was young, I was able to do this and that. What does it make a difference what you did when you were young? What about the way you are now? Think about the way you are now. In the old age, there are a lot of things that you could get, good things you could get out of them, because less bilbulim, less crazy things in a person's head. A young person is always bubbling, is always running, is always jumping. So the main thing is sometimes he misses out. But an older person, he knows the Malach HaMavis is right next to him, he's listening to him, he's waiting for him. So he knows what he doesn't do right now. If he doesn't do it now, he won't do it. So he looks for the most important things, and all the rest of the things aren't so important to him. Once two old people sat in an old age home, and one says to the next, "Do you remember we used to run after women when we were younger?" And the other one says, "I remember we did, but I don't remember why. Remind me." So all the craziness, you see, all the craziness is, they all disappear, and the important things are left. If a person was, we have more than this. If a person's used to eating very good food and enjoying physical things, as he gets older, it gets worse. He remembers how much pleasure he got. Now he has diabetes, and he has cholesterol problems, and he has blood pressure problems. He can't eat anything, and if he could, his teeth are false teeth, and everything's moving, and it's not so much fun. So as much as he got pleasure from this world, that's how much difficulty he has when he's old. When a person does things that are important in life, he'll do the same thing when he's old, and there's no difference. He'll be able to accomplish every single moment in his life. These are the important things in life. So this is where it says, "Limlo shivisi v'domanti." When a person is nichnot to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the light of Hashem can shine inside of him. And as long as a person was not nichna to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the light of Hashem is not shining inside of him. Mamar Yavok writes something very difficult, something very hard. At first it's hard to understand what he says. He says that the death is the most greatest pleasure for tzaddikim. It sounds like we're talking about the death of a person. They experience, with somebody in the family. It's a very difficult thing to experience. It's hard to understand this type of passage. Let's try to figure it out. Try to think. I thought about it in this way. When does a person enjoy from something? I enjoy something when it was lacking for me. If when I'm hungry and I eat steak, I enjoy. When a man is with a woman, they're like vafla of elite. 2 weeks past exam, 2 weeks is kif. If it was just kif, it would be disgusting. This is why we have to keep away from our wives when the time of nida. The pleasure is when you have a lack. When you fill up the lack, then you have pleasure. When you have another lack, then you can get pleasure again. When a person's about to die, it's the most difficult time. When a person's dead, so he feels better, and so therefore death, when a person dies, like a tzaddik dies, it's like a hair pulling it out of milk. When a person wants to live in life, when he wants to grab onto it, then the death is like ripping apart tzemer from the thorns, wool from thorns. As long as a person has a desire to stay alive, to be alive, and his physical health is getting weaker, it's very, very difficult, because he wants to live, and he's holding on to life in every way that he can, and his physicality is going down. It hurts him very much. It's hard for him. Before death, when a person's about to die, there's a moment of letting go, where he understands there's no fighting. So he lifts up his hands. There are many people that die, and their face all of a sudden looks much better. There's a certain type of peace that we can't describe. On the other side, when you see a person who's about to die, and his face it looks bad, but when a person, it's a bad siman. If you see a person who's smiling when he dies, it's a good siman for him when he's smiling. And Rabbi Shimon, he taught a lot of Torah before he died. This pasuk says, if you twist a person's hand, like it says in Aikido Kotegash, and you're fighting the other way, you'll break your hand in 3 places. Over here, and over here. But if you go with the movement, and if you roll off the hand, nothing will happen to you. If you think about the falling, it's going to hurt you a lot. If you think about getting up, you won't feel falling at all. The existence of giving over allows you to flow with existence. So therefore, tzaddikim, dying for them is like taking a hair out of milk, because they subjugate themselves to the ratzon of Hashem, and the light of Hashem is able to be meir in them, to shine inside of them. I remember there was a certain woman, a neighbor of ours, got very sick. And they gave her a bone marrow transplant. She was for 5 days. She was almost dead. And she got out of this, and she got better. And my wife asked her, how did you feel when you were in such a low state, almost dead? And she said, I'll tell you something which is very strange. Till today, I I desire the closeness that of Hashem, the closest to Hashem that I felt at that time, and I felt tremendous pleasure. Once she gave over herself, and she felt like she was lying in Hashem's hands, so to speak, she received a certain calmness, which gave her a certain type of pleasure. This is what he's saying. Shiviti vidumamti. All this process of our life, when Adam Rishon ate from Eitzadas Tova, and he got Gzardin of Misa, the whole process of life is to teach us subjugation, to subjugate ourselves to Hashem. Because as long as we have an individual existence, we are not able to connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu, to the spiritual world, because we're something. We're something all by ourselves. The whole idea is that we should mevatel ourselves. Someone's now asking from the audience, people don't like the idea of kniya, of giving over. It's a very difficult concept. Nowadays we teach that a person should live by himself. And Ramoni continues and he says, "This is the problem of our generation. Is that this is what people teach in the world, that we shouldn't give over." I'm speaking. Ramoni continues saying, "I'm speaking of giving over completely. We have to teach ourselves that we're nothing. We have to understand that nothing might be something. As long as you still think." What can I tell you? You're sitting here with somebody who's in a difficult time in a hospital, and someone gives them, the nurse comes and gives them an injection. And I asked my mother, "Does it hurt you?" And she waved her hand. She says, like, what does it make a difference? You see, it's a very difficult way of looking at things. This is what the neshama needs. It needs to get to such a situation, such a state, completely subjugated, kniya. As long as it doesn't get to this madriga of kniya, this is a very big question. I asked this question in the base of Levias, when what's better, to die all of a sudden, or to die a difficult way before a person dies? It's a very difficult question. From one side, there's benefits on the side, but on the other side, there's negative things on the side and that side. If you die quickly, you don't suffer. When I was in Hiroshima, when the museum of the explosion, nuclear explosion, I saw the best type of death. When the bomb exploded, there were three people on a gate, and behind them there was a wall. The explosion made 50,000 degrees of heat. You could see a picture of three people, the wall behind them where they were standing, three people sitting on the fence. The explosion just smashed them into the wall, squished them into the wall. They died immediately. Is there any better death than this? They didn't even have a chance to move. They didn't even understand what was going on. They just died immediately. On the other side, they can't separate themselves from the children, to speak to the children, to say goodbye to the children, to tell them what they should do afterwards with their things. There's a need to give time before a person dies. It's a very important time. When a person gets time, so he makes a will, he prepares this, prepares that. It's not Stam. Yaakov Avinu asked for sickness. He didn't want to die all of a sudden. He asked for sickness before he died. So Rabbi Nachman writes in the Rav Nosson writes in the Kutei Halachos, like David HaMelech said, Alav Hashalom, Hashem lo gava libi v'lachtu yiglos v'niflos mimani, v'no shivisi d'manti nafshik v'mon leimo v'chule. That all this is a bechina of what the mitzamtzem, the excitement of our heart that shouldn't get too excited. And through this, we're able to be mamshich, to go do avodas Hashem step by step until we get to very high madrigas, very high level. As mentioned above, it says Mizos Allah is the bechina of Havana, because all of the bechina of Havana because you didn't want to receive it step by step. To receive the light step by step, meaning the existence between the passage between all neshamos and this world. A person has to come slowly, has to go stage by stage. Why in stage by stage? Because if it doesn't come stage by stage, then there'll be shviras hakelim. This is what happened in the middle world, between the world of Ein Sof and this world. There's a shviras hakelim. Existence dictates that between two existences there must be a state of nothing, of Ein. If there's no state of Ein between the two yeshes, will just be the two existence will be just a fixed, a better existence. But if you want to make a different existence, you have to have a nothingness in the middle. Therefore, we have Gemila. The first method is Gemila from the upper worlds. It's like you read it, Tzarech Aliyah. On a certain sefer it says, when rain comes down, we see puddles. We don't say, oh, too bad for all these puddles. Look at all these puddles on the ground. They go down the drain. What's with all this water? If we just put some big bags in the air, we could grab all the water. It would have been much better. In case the water goes down to the ground, take a pot with the dirt in it and pour water inside, and the water comes out dirty on the bottom. So when the water goes into the dirt, it takes the dirt. What happens is, underneath there's a certain sealed level where water can't go underneath, and the water gathers up underneath. And one day the water starts breaking, goes up, and time will come you'll be able to taste, mineral water. How could it be that you're drinking mineral water through the dirt? What happens is all the thickness of the dirt is a filter for the rain. And the part that the water didn't want went down with it, so the water got much higher level, the level of quality mineral water going through the dirt, and in the skies there's no mineral water. So what happens is, this dirt is our body, and this water is our neshama. And when the neshama goes into this world, it passes through this body, and this water gets better. The neshama could get better if a person lives in a proper way. In the end of the day, he's zocher that his neshama can be perfected and brought to a much higher level. Perfected is not such a good word, but levushim. On levushim it's good. Perfect levushim. That's our job, to perfect levushim. And when it exists, life in the world, in this ground, in the body, then that's the tikkun of the bria, of creation. Because Hashem did not create perfection perfect. He created enough that it should be a creation, and then afterwards He created Hashem bara Elohim lasos. He created the world and for us to do. We should be able to do it because the world is not perfect yet. We have to fix up the world and finish fixing up the world. He put down the world and put down people in this world in order for us to finish the tikkun that Hashem started and he didn't finish. If so, the first Gemila is separating from the Olam and Neshamas to this world, and afterwards a person lives for 70, 80, or 90 years here in this world. He thinks this is the place. He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to the upper world. He needs a new Gemila, he needs a new separation. He needs to separate from this world. The Mekubalim say, why is it in a place that there's a lot of tainug, there's also a lot of klipas? Why? discotheques and pubs, all sorts of places like this. There's a lot of klipas. Why? Because the neshamas here in this world, and they're supposed to get pleasure here in this world, instead of going after their own pleasures, when they leave this world and they have nowhere to go, they have no lavush to get schar and olam haba, they turn into mazikim, and they go to that place where they got pleasure from. So they see and they hear. I don't know how they see and hear, but they can't get any pleasure from it. They go back to the same place. It's like going to water and you can't drink from it. You're thirsty, you can't drink, because he has no physicality, he has no body, so he can't get pleasure from what he wants to get pleasure from. That's why all these klipas are hanging around by the discotheques. That's why a person needs kafakela, gehenam, and always. That's what gehenam is. Gehenam is kabila from this world. There's gehenam of fire and gehenam of ice. This is first the 6 months is fire, and the 6 months is ice. Sorry, the opposite. First 6 months is ice, and the second month is fire. The reason why these two gehenams is because either we have krius, we have coldness about doing mitzvahs, or we have fire in order to do averos. Either we don't want to do mitzvahs, we get punished with ice. There's machlokas. Some say that's mida keneged mida. A person who has taivas, then he goes after fire. And some people say it's the opposite. But if a person was cold, then if a person was cold and wasn't interested in doing mitzvahs, then they put him in the fire to heat him up, and the opposite also. So in Gehenna, the Rishonim in Gehenna, after 6 months in the cold, in the snow, they heard that there's soon going to be a Gehenna of Esh, so they put the snow inside their pockets to cool them off from the fire. Sounds like a joke, but the Rizal explains why is it like this. When a neshama goes into Olam Elyon, to upper world, and he recognizes the truth, he says, Rabbanu Shalom, bring me back into this world. Look, see what a tzaddik I'm going to be. I promise you I'm going to be a tzaddik. I promise you I know everything, I'm going to do exactly the way it's supposed to be. There's no such thing. Adarabba. Specifically, they throw a person down in this world and they make him forget everything that he knows in the upper worlds, in order to give him a test, to see if he could stand a test. If a person remembered everything in the upper worlds, so there wouldn't be an assignment b'chlal. What did he do here in this world? Of course, a person won't stick his hand into a fire if he knows it'll burn. So therefore Hashem mixes up everything. Here in this world He gives us Yitzhahara, or gives us money up front, so to speak, and the Kedusha gives you a check tachuya, a post-dated check, 3 or 4 months, sometimes maybe more than 3 or 4 months, usually. So this existence is very strange, very confusing. Here's a question a woman's asking from the crowd. She's asking, what is shivisi? Is shivisi referring? What is shiviti mean? So now everyone explains. Shivisi is the idea that a person gets to a state that everything in this world and everything, all the pleasures, not worth anything. He makes everything shivyon. Shivyon is from shivisi. Everything is equal. Shava. He has no interest in this world. Everything is equal. Also, domamti. You think that Aaron HaKohen had nothing to say when his two sons died? He had a lot to say. But still, vayidom arom. He was domam. He didn't speak. Death is like Dmamadaka, is like shivisi. Everything in the end of the day, when a person dies, they put him in his forearms. There's no difference between one kever and the next kever. It's all the same. Maybe if there is a difference, they have a fancy kever, and at the end of the day also those get flattened after a while. Everything is equal. Shivisi means everything is equal. Here's what it says, Yerav Lecha. You should enjoy the klalos that people curse you as much as the brachas they give you. A certain Rav was traveling in a boat with a lot of goyim, and someone stood there and made on him. to embarrass him, and he enjoyed this. The Rav enjoyed this like the great blessings that they blessed him. Also, Chaim Vital, he wrote in Shari Kedusha, he writes when people come to ask for all sorts of sagos, first they ask him, did you get to a certain madriga of shivisi? Are you happy in the curses and embarrassments as much as you're happy in blessings when people give you blessings? People all the time say, oh, look how good you are, nice you are, smart you are. And nobody likes it when people make fun of him. Nobody likes it when people scream at him and laugh at him. A person who's spiritual, who's attached to his shosh, doesn't care. All these things are nothing. It doesn't make any difference what everyone says about him. For him, the main thing is being attached to Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Gaon of Vilna, his sister came to him. He didn't see his sister for 30 years, and she knocked on the door, and he said, "Listen, I'm happy to see you, but I don't have any time now. When we get to Gan Eden, we'll have a lot of time to talk. Now I have no time." This is Shivisi. There are all sorts of stories about all sorts of tzaddikim that they drink amma by accident, and he says, the soup today is very good. All sorts of stories about the different tzaddikim. This happened. The idea is the same though. This whole world is not a big deal. That's the idea of Shivisi. The mother of my wife said to my wife before she died, this whole world is not such a big thing, not such a special thing. Hashem should help us, mizak us, we should purify ourselves in this world, we should be able to do our job here in this world, each person should be able to do their job, we should get to Gula Shlema. Amen, Amen.